Welcome to Eviliv3, the live media commentary show that answers the question, can I stop a bully by saying his mom's name? Subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we are reviewing Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
That's right. Once you start, it's hard to stop talking this way.
Yeah, maybe we should stop though. So Chris, thank you so much for joining me again.
Appreciate it, man. Looking forward to this one.
This is, I think, the most divisive of the DCEU films, if memory serves.
That's the general consensus. You know, when I was doing some research as far as all kinds of metrics as far as like fan, interaction. Yeah. It seems to be this is the one where they really turned on Snyder on this one. Yeah. And I had never seen the Ultimate Edition, right? Oh, is that what it's called? Yeah. The Ultimate? Yeah. And it clears up so many holes that were in the theatrical version. It's such a better version. And I feel like this is happening with Snyder a lot. He needs to fire his editor because Rebel Moon, Justice League, like every time he gets to do like his own version of it down the road, it's always better, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it may still be a stinker or it may still have problems, but it's still better than what was released before, which is weird because it shouldn't be such a challenging construct. Like if you have a good script, you should be able to cut out the pieces that don't serve the script in order to still have a fully functioning script. But in this particular case, he cut out some of the more meaningful pieces, in my opinion, specifically with Clark Kent Superman, in order to make it a better film. And I think there was a whole bunch of sort of like jumping left and right foot on Batman's intentions and Superman's intentions in the theatrical cut that it didn't really make a lot of sense. And I think the Ultimate Edition definitely tied some of those strings together, but I don't think for people who had general grievance with Batman v Superman theatrical, they're not going to be happy. You know, they're not going to be happier watching the Ultimate Edition because it's 30 more minutes of what they didn't like.
Exactly.
Which is weird. And I just want to preface all of this by saying, especially with DCEU, starting with Man of Steel, when I think of comic books and then translating comic book films, I try to think about what's true to the comics that can then translate to film. And because we've already spoken to this before in previous Superman reviews, the reality that comic book stories are reimagined and rewritten and have elements that are brand new, each retelling, and they sort of shake off older storytelling beats in order to bring a newer and updated version. And that's what I think with DCEU specifically, leading with Man of Steel, but then following through with this. I thought they did, Zack Snyder specifically, brilliantly, because I'm not trying to fanboy because I don't like everything he's done, but this is one of those films where he stayed true to comic storytelling form, not some of the comic story beats, but the form of comic book storytelling, and completely reimagined it for a cinematic experience. And in that context, I think it was wildly successful. And there's elements I don't like about this film, but by and large, as far as like a comic book film goes, this is up there with Tim Burton shit for me.
Wow. And what about the Nolan trilogy? How would you rank this against?
It's different because that's not a comic book film. That's a realistic version of Batman.
Right.
And so I grade it very differently. You know, when you see Ben Affleck in his like Superman beat 'em up suit, there's no realistic version of that. It's super thick and comic booky and rounded corners and like ridiculous looking on its face. But in the context of a comic, it makes perfect sense. And so I can't judge it on the same merits as a Christopher Nolan version
Yeah.
because, we started with Man of Steel, which was very gritty and very realistic. Nolan helped write it and create it. So it was very much in line with that. And they actually originally wanted this to be in that universe. They just, couldn't do it because of the ending that Nolan created for Batman. But if you had to go a Batman v Superman film, you have to go into sort of ridiculous comic book territory because there's no universe where Batman could stand up to fucking Superman, like
Right.
ever. So
Yeah.
you had to go sort of like ridiculous, and I think this is as close as you could get for a on-screen experience.
So I think this is going to be the first one in the series that we're going to disagree on. I feel like we've been I bruise like a peach. No, but like I feel like you've said this before more eloquently on other streams. A lot of times it's what's on the menu. So in other words, you're offered Batman versus Superman. To me, that was what I paid my ticket for. That's what I wanted to see going in, and it started really good. I thought the opening scene, well, it's not the opening scene, but early in the film, where you have Bruce Wayne running towards the destruction of the world engine. For me,
That
being
was
from New York,
awesome.
it was awesome. And for me, being from New York and having, friends and family friends that passed away in 9/11, it was
Oh shit.
it was very reminiscent of that. It was very gritty. And I was like, this is great because this is starting to talk to the motivation of why he would be upset with Superman. I thought that should have been the focus and the heart of the movie, is you had to come up with a motivation for both protagonists, why Superman would want to fight Batman and why Batman would want to fight Superman.
Mm.
And you could have done it in a silly way, like Superman 2, 3, and 4. But the fact that Snyder had stuck with a gritty, more serious tone, which was such a juxtaposition to the Marvel movies, I really did like. And the first third of this movie, I was really enjoying, and then it just falls apart for me, which we can
Oh
get into
wow.
some of the details. But I think that was the main reason why I wanted to see it. I wanted to see a reason why Batman would be fighting Superman
Yeah.
in this gritty version of
Yeah.
the Snyderverse.
Yeah. So let's put a pin in that because I definitely
Yeah,
want to go
sure.
down that pathway. This is directed by Zack Snyder, written by Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer. Cinematography was done by Larry Fong, and I wanted to call out the cinematographer because visually, this has some amazing imagery. If you take away story, if you take away anything that you dislike about the actors or the dialogue or any of that, and you just like visually look at it, there are scenes in this that are like straight out of the comic books with Batman and like some great powerful Superman visuals. Even
Yes.
Wonder Woman for the first time on the big screen. Like there's some visuals, not so much Doomsday. But I like the Ninja Turtles. I just like them to stay Ninja Turtles. Like especially with Batman specifically.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't want to get rid of Snyder. I just want to
yeah.
replace Chris Terrio. It's the story to me, and I think I've said this before. For me personally, the best superhero movies are the ones that they're smaller. Like Iron
Yeah.
Man was just about
Yep.
him.
Yep.
It really wasn't even so much about the bad guy.
100%.
Captain America, one villain.
Yeah.
This is just too many different ideas, some of which are amazing. Like I love the Dark Knight take on Batman,
Yes. Yes.
but not for this. This is Batman versus Superman. I wanted to see Christian Bale versus Henry Cavill.
Oh.
I didn't want to see an older Batman. Like Batman's already the underdog. I don't want to see like a 58-year-old Mike Tyson fighting. Oh wait,
Come on. Come on.
too far. All right,
Yeah, I feel like that was way too far. First of
that was a
all,
low blow.
Ben Affleck did great as Batman in this.
He did, and it's a cool storyline. But I wanted to see. He was already an underdog, and an older, broken down Batman is a great movie idea, but not when you have to fight Superman. I wanted Christian Bale versus Henry Cavill.
Yeah. Yeah. So the log line is Batman is manipulated by Lex Luthor to fear Superman. Superman's existence is meanwhile divided in the world and is framed for murder during an international crisis. The heroes clash and force the neutral woman, Wonder Woman, to reemerge. I think that's a horrible logline for what the actual story is, because this is not Lex manipulating Batman as much as it is Batman getting that initial hit of rage against an alien effing up the world.
Yes.
And justified from his perspective and largely all of humanity's perspective. Like, that is a horrible thing to go through. And especially when it touches you personally, of course it's going to ignite a fire. And especially if you're already a fucking psychopath like Batman, then of course it's going to put you over the edge. Lex Luthor, even in this film, he has this throwaway line at the end. He's like, I didn't really have to push him that far to make him hate you. I didn't really have to put too much strain on him. He just like went along with it. It's because Batman's a broken human. He's not a normal person. He doesn't believe in justice or right and wrong. He believes in his own sense of justice and right and wrong. And that does not align with anyone else's because he's an anti-hero. That's the whole point of his character.
Yeah, and I like the idea that Batman and Superman, I never really thought about it, but they're so diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
Like Batman is literally the Dark Knight, and Superman needs sunlight. He literally needs sunlight. So it's light it's light versus dark. And I thought that was really cool. In fact, one of my favorite scenes in this movie was just Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne talking to each other, because I just love their different perspectives on it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see more of that. To me, and I wanted to get your take on it, I just didn't buy that the idea that Superman was an alien with the power to destroy the world as enough motivation for Batman to want to kill him. Because Batman says in this, he says something to the extent of, even if there's a 1% chance, only a 1% chance that he's actually going to destroy the world, we have to assume that's a certainty. I'm butchering the dialogue.
No, that's there. Yeah, that's it.
Something to that effect. Did you think that 1% thing was enough? Because I just want to give you my quick take on it. Yeah. It's your show. I'm sorry.
Go.
I just from my perspective, he also witnessed, and this is the world's greatest detective. Batman is a smart guy. He also witnessed Superman destroying the world engine and defending Earth from these superpowered aliens. So he did see the destruction, and I get it, but he also had to witness the other part of it too, where Superman, saved humanity from this world engine. And what if something like that happens again? So I didn't think there was enough motivation, but I wanted to hear your take if you bought into that.
So I want to I want to preface this with the word perspective. When I was in the military, my drill sergeant told me, and it has stuck with me ever since because I think it's such a brilliant line. She said, reality is 9/10 of all. I'm sorry, 9/10 of reality is perception. So there's 1/10 of reality that we all share that is, no matter what, gravity, for example, the sun. But everything else is up to interpretation by your own personal experience, informed by where you were raised, who you were raised by, what religion, what social status, what country. There's so much that goes into what makes a person a person. When Bruce Wayne is saying if there's a 1% chance to his fucking butler, which is minimizing his role. But when he's saying that, I think he's saying that he's placating the butler, because the reality is he did see this alien destroy his world. It wasn't hyperbolic. It wasn't what if. He destroyed the entire city of Metropolis. He brought down his own business. His business partners that he's known for however many years died on the line with him. Like, he saved children from being crushed by rubble that these aliens were just flying around the sky. So it wasn't a what if for him. It had already happened on a very grand scale. So he's just trying to justify to Alfred, like, look, what if this was a global thing? Which it doesn't matter because it's already happened. He's already destroyed thousands of lives flippantly. And the idea that, well, he was doing it for humanity, he doesn't know his motivations. No one knows his motivations. He's an alien. At no point was it broadcast that Superman was doing this for the good of all people. All he knows is that Zod shows up and he's like, "You're harboring an alien. Give him to me or I destroy everything." That's it. That's
Right.
all the normal person knows. And so on the ground level, that happens, and then suddenly there's catastrophe everywhere. So there's no semblance for Batman or for any John Doe on the street to think that Superman is there to protect them and save them when all he's done is destroyed. He's fought an alien that came to kill him or capture him at the very least. And
Yeah.
the casualty, the fallout of that is massive death and destruction. So I totally bought Bruce Wayne's
Okay.
perspective because he doesn't know what we know as viewers. He has no context for that. In the moment, in the heat of his experience, is nothing but pain and witnessing destruction. And so I totally bought into it.
That's fair. And I will say this is where the older version of Batman plays into this concept, because we see glimpses of the Robin suit, indicating that Joker killed Robin. So in this instance, it does play into the fact that he's a more disillusioned version. So he's more likely to just kind of want to bring it all down type of thing. So he is more likely to believe that Superman is evil. But we have seen plenty of situations where Superman has saved, people. We see him pulling, people from burning buildings all the time.
But that's only afterward.
Yeah.
Like that's after the destruction happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my justification. I understand. Like, if I'm thinking of, I'm in advertising, so I constantly thinking about brand and how to repair brands. And if Superman is a brand and he just destroyed everything, what's the best way for him to repair that brand and to make people not want to murder him or hunt him down or the government go against him? Well, I got to save a couple cats out of a couple trees. So he does some things, and who knows if it's genuine or not, because you don't know the dude. He is unapproachable. The only person that's had any interaction is a news reporter, of all weird things. And then how much can you believe? Because we live in the era of Trump where even the media is a lie. Like everything is a lie. We have to manufacture our own truths. And in that context, that's what Batman's doing. He's manufacturing a truth for his own narrative. He's in his own echo chamber. He's not on social media. He doesn't care about other people's thoughts. He's an anti-hero. So I don't know. And I don't want to shut down your perspective, because I think it's genuine, it's valid, and that's how I think like a lot of people saw the film. I saw it in a slightly different way just because of that one line that my drill sergeant gave me. I was like, well, if perception is 9/10 of reality, what's Batman's perception? And it's presented, but I don't think it's sold in the show, because we're presented so often with Superman and we know Superman. So how could the rest of the world not know Superman the way we do? But they don't.
Yeah.
They've never been exposed to it.
Yeah.
In this show.
Yeah. That's why I enjoy these reviews, because I love getting your take on it. And I will say this is a case where the Ultimate Edition definitely plays into this and explains it a little bit better, because you have more scenes of Bruce Wayne not sleeping, taking pills.
Yeah.
So this is also someone who's not focused and thinking clearly. So it is easier for him to buy into the fact that there's destruction around every turn.
Oh no. Oh, I lost you for a second.
Okay. I was just going to say, literally every time he goes to sleep, he's dreaming about these doomsday. No, that's a bad phrase. There's realities of the end of the world.
Destruction, yeah.
So, destruction, yeah. So there was that one where he goes to sleep and then he's fighting these flying things, which is supposedly a big thing from the comic book.
The parademons.
And parademons, yeah. And then he gets beat up and then he wakes up, which that to me is my dreams, where I fail constantly. So I really I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I wouldn't think Batman would get beat up in his own dream. But you can see that the idea, though, is that every time he goes to sleep, he's seeing worst case scenarios. So it does play into why he would assume Superman is along those lines.
That's one of the reasons why I love this Batman so much, is that he's presented in the exact same way that he acts. He is a broken human. He is not
Mm,
a rational, free thing. In Tim Burton's
yeah,
Batman, Michael Keaton is put together. He's intelligent. He's witty. He is thoughtful. He's conniving. He's impassioned, and he has a sense of justice and right and wrong. This is not that Batman. This is a disillusioned, broken ass human, and we're presented that from the very beginning.
right.
I reflect back on when my friend in high school had killed himself, and it destroyed me. It completely changed my entire perspective about everything, and it affected me to this day. Just that one thing. And I can only imagine if it's your mom and dad that were killed,
Yeah,
and the last thing you know is your father saying, Martha, and your mother's eyes, pupils dilating as she gives her last breath, and you're stuck there in the middle of the damn street at night. That would destroy any human being, any child. It would just completely imprint on them. And I loved how they hyper stressed that broken moment and him reflecting, going back to the grave and reimagining and re-experiencing this pain, that this is not something that's one and done. He never went to therapy. This is something that has been broiling up inside of him. I wouldn't be surprised if this Batman had cancerous tumors that he's been suffering through for the torment that he's been going through. And then we clearly see that he's had a Robin, and that Robin was murdered by
right.
Joker. We see that he has been tormented over and over and over again. We don't even get any hints that he's ever had any wins. So this version of Batman is so broken as a human being and as a superhero that I like that he went the way he did, because it makes logical sense for a viewer like me to watch that and go, yeah, I couldn't even imagine what we look at movies and they go through these terrible experiences and then they get over them 30 seconds later, or they learn a life lesson and they become
Yeah,
happy and there's a catharsis because that's how films work. Real life isn't like that. Real life, you experience bullying as a child and it can fuck your life up the whole life you have. You experience a traumatic experience like rape or a murder, and it will fuck you up your whole life. You have a loved one that is murdered or kills himself or dies in some horrific way or just a natural way, and it fucking affects you. Like, that's life. That's real life. That's not movie life. And to bring real life into this film and have it affect a superhero and inform their actions completely changes and recontextualizes the way I ever perceive Batman. Because for me, Michael Keaton was always Batman, and that's not this Batman. I can't stress
yeah,
that enough. That when we go into this, we think there's these archetypal characters. Batman, this is what Batman is like. Superman, this is what Superman is like. And I think in the previous film, Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder presented a Superman that was not archetypical, that was very different. He was raw. He was learning. It wasn't the Christopher Reeve where, he struggled a little bit with one teasing moment and then he became Superman. No, this guy, he suffered a lot. And
yeah,
he was informed solely by the death of his father, because his father was so afraid of what would happen if he came out. And that imprint on him as Superman with his father informed everything about this film in Superman's perspective. And then the same thing with the father of Batman, of that last dying moment, stepping in front of the gunman to protect his family, going to literally the fist in front of his kid's face and then bringing it up and getting killed trying to defend his family. And then his wife gets killed. The child's watching the whole time. Martha gets called out and the kid watches his mom die, watches his dad die, and he's all alone. It informs everything about this character. And so they have these parallel experiences. They're both broken. Superman's not healthy either. He's living for his father. He's not living for
right.
himself, and he has that realization in the film. And Batman is obviously living as this sort of heroic idealized version of his father, where his father won in the battle rather than died, and he saved his mom rather than died. But he's tormented by the reality that that's not true, that he's living a lie, and he's not solving anything. He's just living out this sick, psychotic fantasy of being this superhero. I don't know, man. I just can't. I can't not love this film. I think it's so much deeper than people give it credit for.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. You hit on some great points, and I think I have such a hard time with this movie because my feelings on it change back and forth like 100 times as I'm watching it. At parts, I was like, I really like this. I don't remember why I didn't like this as much the first time. And then like 10 minutes later, something would happen that like really bugged me. But I will say one of the positive things about this was Ben Affleck. I think if you're going to go with this archetype of the Dark Knight, of a broken down superhero, I thought you couldn't have done a better job casting it. Because I don't follow a lot of the gossip stuff like that, but it's common knowledge that Ben Affleck has had a drinking problem, and he's had some issues that has affected his personal life, and you felt that in his performance. Like you felt that situation where it's a broken down, still well-to-do. Like he epitomizes Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
like that's his. I feel like that's his real life.
Yeah.
So he nailed the Bruce Wayne part. I think Christian Bale and others have maybe done the Batman part slightly better, but I don't think anyone has done the Bruce Wayne aspect of the character better. So I thought he was a highlight of this movie for sure. Yeah, and there were a lot of good highlights, but there's also some really bad lowlights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's get in. Let's talk about the cast really quick here. So Ben Affleck is Bruce Wayne and Batman. We were both in line with Bruce Wayne. Did you think he made a good Batman?
I think this version of it, where he is like a bulked up, different fighting style because he's older. It almost reminded me of is it Rocky 5 or Rocky 6, where he's trying to train with, and he's like, do you have any agility? No. Do you have any endurance? No. So he just like works on.
Yeah. I love Rocky films. Yeah. So yeah, that's great.
And I will say the fight scene where Batman has to rescue Martha at the end might be the best Batman scene.
Yes.
I've seen that combat where he's getting hurt. He's getting shot in the back of the head. He's getting stabbed. Yeah. Awesome. And Snyder does such a good job with some of those action scenes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a highlight. Yeah, absolutely.
So Henry Cavill is Clark Kent and Superman. I think we're both in line. Like he's dope. He's awesome. Amy Adams is Lois Lane. I liked her in this too. I thought she brought a wonderful version of personal conflict. She realizes, and it makes her stupid for not having realized it before, but she realizes that she's been set up, and that of course, they wanted Superman to save her in the desert, and she was just played. I feel like if you're really a good news reporter, you probably should have figured that out on your own. But I think I love her in the tub scene, not because she's naked in the tub, but I love her in the tub scene because she's telling Clark, Superman, she's like, you can't do this. Like I want you there for me. I want you to save me. And I'm sort of adding subtext and stuff, but and like, you can't always just like look out for me. Like I'm not the one that you need to be, focused on, because you can't be everywhere at once. And so you have to choose. And the weight of that idea of choosing who you save is going to, and again, I'm extrapolating here, it's going to destroy you as a human being. Like how can, and of course in the public eye too, like how can you do that? You just can't be both. Like, and she knows that she loves him. She knows that he loves her. She knows that he will always come to her. And there's a little bit of comfort in that, but it's also a little bit of like, but I'm killing him by doing this. I'm killing him publicly. I'm killing him personally. Like I am the reason why he feels bad. And there is nothing worse than thinking that for a human being. Like it's this parasitic experience. Like you feed off of that love because you want that love. We all want love and validation. But by doing that, by allowing that to happen, you're making them suffer. So is your happiness worth their pain? Like, contextually, that's a horrible thing to think about.
Yeah, and I think interesting too. Like every minute that he's with her, that's one less person out of a burning building
Right.
that he's saving.
Right.
So what a curse! That's what I love how Snyder has.
Oh no. Oh no. No. Ah! All
Oh
right.
no,
Okay,
you
you're
okay?
back. You're back.
Back? Okay, that's the last one. I'm trying to will that into existence. But yeah, my thought is that every minute he's with her, that there's one less burning person in the building that he's saving. So what a curse! And I've never looked at Superman this way, but it's an absolute curse to be him, because he has to literally choose. If I take a nap, it's like hundreds of people
Right.
that just died, you know. And there's a lot of like people, not a lot, but there are some people in the world that like don't want to kill any animal, they don't want to
Right.
kill an insect and stuff like that, where they literally are careful how they walk because they don't want to step on an ant or something like that. And I never looked at Superman that way, but it's got to be like that for him. Every action has a disastrous reaction. And one of the things I liked about the ultimate version was that scene with his dad.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't really make sense, they didn't really, clarify why he would be having a vision. Just
Oh,
the I,
go ahead.
you
I'm
know,
sorry.
you know what I'm talking about?
I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about, but I have a totally different vibe. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I love the fact that he said like he changed, he saved his house from being flooded, but by doing that there were horses that died
Right.
as a result.
Yeah.
And I was like, man,
The,
I never looked at Superman as a curse. It's a curse to have that much power.
yeah, the consequences of choice. It's
Yeah.
such a powerful idea. I want to talk about that vision because I don't think it was a vision at all. Um, I struggle with depression and self worth and validation and stuff like a lot. And there was this one birthday that I had years ago that my wife made me a cake and my kids were all excited and they wanted to present it to me. And I walked into the kitchen and I saw the cake and I immediately had this like wave, this emotional wave just knock me off my feet and just bury me. And I like ran out of the house. I got in my car and I drove to my friend who killed himself, his grave site in downtown Salt Lake. And I just sat at the grave talking to him, trying to understand why I felt the way I felt. Because I had no one else to talk to. It was just like,
How long after his passing was
this
this?
was years, years,
Years.
years,
Wow.
years. Clearly I hang out on this shit way too long. So,
No, I don't think there's a time limit on
right,
grief.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. So I went to his grave and I just sat there and I talked to him. He's dead. He's gone. I don't actually think he's there. It's just I for me in the moment was, why do I cry every goddamn review we do? What the fuck is wrong? I am a broken human.
I think it's me. You don't cry with.
Yeah,
You
it
don't cry
is
with
you.
Cam. You don't cry with Cam. It's such a,
What the fuck?
usually just women cry when they see me.
Yeah,
But
no,
that's for a different
I'm a
reason.
woman. I'm identifying. So I'm trying to contextualize why I deserve this. Why do I deserve to have a family that loves me? And you're dead in the ground. And it's sort of compounded by all the military experience, all the military experience I had, and soldiers that have died and gone to war and suffered, and I went in and went out, and I didn't have anything. I have survivor's guilt. To the nth degree, I don't feel like I deserve in my opinion, wonderful life that I have when so many people that I know are good humans don't get that. And so many people that I have valued so greatly and consider valuable contributions to making me who I am, who died and aren't around anymore. Why do they not get it? And why do
Yeah.
I get it? And so trying to contextualize that is something that I personally experience. And so for Superman to go off into the Antarctic, knowing he can't die, but just searching for answers and not wanting to be there because the world is rejecting him and all he's trying to do is save them, but every choice has a consequence. For him to then imagine his father talking to him is the exact same thing that I've experienced, whether it's talking to my dead friend at his gravesite, or whether it's just sitting down and listening to some music and having a drink and just reflecting internally. Like, I've had those conversations, and so it was very real, and it really landed for me. And I don't know if it's just because like there's some chemical thing that's broken inside of me that I can relate to that, or I don't know what it is, but for some reason it landed for me. It worked
I,
perfectly.
I don't think empathy is ever a negative. So
Right,
no,
right.
and there were some great themes brought up in this movie that it just reminded me of. There was a line that Luther has, and I was not a fan of his take on Luther, but
Right.
there was one great line that he had where he said, if God is all powerful, then he can't be all good. And if
Yeah.
he's all good, then he can't be all powerful, because just look at the reality of
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I did not expect to have those kind of deep thoughts in a superhero movie. And I missed the next 10 minutes of whatever was going on because I was just conceptualizing that. And like, wow, what a deep thought. And it really explained his character. So there was some really good stuff in this that was very, very moving. And
Yeah.
just seeing Kevin Costner again, um, and that was such a powerful message, that story he had. Just the idea that he's eating cake while these horses are drowning.
Yeah.
And it's like, God,
That's heavy.
Superman, yeah, Superman is cursed, and that's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like so much about the DCEU is it adds in so many more elements to consider that are never presented in comics. And if they are, they're just flippantly because you can't really dive into it in a comic book form, you know? You can't like the
Yeah.
real heavy philosophical stuff. All right, so let's talk about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor because on the surface, I'm not a huge fan of the take. But the more I consider it, I'm still not a huge fan, but I understand it a little bit more. And again, you know, we sort of preface this with some other conversations we had in previous film or reviews about how you reimagine characters and stories and stuff. So I'm not averse to this version of Lex Luthor. It was a little neurotic for me, but I like the idea that he's doing what he's doing because he himself is also broken, which is a ongoing theme throughout this whole thing. Anyone
Yeah.
with any power is a broken human, and I think I think there's something to be said about that in our real world. Anyone with any semblance of power is broken. First of all, why do you think you deserve that much power if you're in a position of ultimate power? Like, because what kind of a fucking narcissist can you be? Second of all, if it's something that you genuinely worked for and earned, you've forsaken the rest of your life to do that one thing. So you're
Right.
neurotic and super hyper focused on that one thing. So that also to me feels like you're a broken person. And again, perception and stuff. That's just me. Um, I'm curious about your take on this because I had a college professor tell me happiness is living within your means, meaning you can be poor and be wildly happy, and you can be wealthy and be wildly happy as long as you're living within your means. The second that you start stressing yourself or stretching beyond your means, and you can, you know, quantify that by income if you want, then you no longer are going to be happy because you're going to have to worry about debt. You're going to have to worry about, you know, external things that you didn't have to worry before that. And so I've
Yeah.
always in my life chosen family over money and living within my means, meaning not having debt and paying off any debt that I have to incur as quickly as possible so that I'm not in debt, so that I can focus on what I enjoy and what I love. For you, what do you think happiness is, and how do you contextualize that idea?
Yeah, I've learned as I've gotten older that the people that are the happiest tend to actually be the people that are, I guess, if you did it from an income level below the median. Like
Right.
I feel like the very poor have a difficult time because their basic necessities are not met.
Mm.
But on the flip side, the people who are the wealthiest that I know, for the most part, it's a generalization, but for the
Right.
most part, are some of the meanest uh dicks, you know, and
Right.
it becomes like it's never enough, and like the more you have the more you want. And so we're actually having that conversation with my family, especially my son. We're trying
Mm.
to explain to him that, like, why do you want that? You just got something similar a couple weeks ago. Like, you have to learn to be happy with what you have, otherwise it'll never end, and it
Yeah.
becomes like an addiction. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I thought that was interesting. I think in general, my take on Eisenberg's version of Luther, and I hate to say this because it seems like the mob was after him. It seems like 90% of people did not enjoy his take, and but sometimes you got to pick up the pitchfork and the torch and say, "Point me to the house. I'm with you." I,
Nah.
I I did not. I thought it was over the top, and it really distracted me from what's been a really cool character, because the Gene Hackman Luther and the what was the one from
Yeah,
Superman
Kevin
Returns,
Spacey.
Kevin Spacey. I just enjoyed them so much more. I just felt like this guy. I get that he's broken, but the other Luther's motivation was money and power. This seemed to be personal for
Yeah.
him with Superman, and I didn't think even the Ultimate version explained why it was so personal for him. Did you get his motivation why
Yeah.
he hated Superman so
That's
much?
really interesting. There's a line where he is talking to the senator, um, Holly Hunter, and he says something about living up to his father's expectations. And what if he just changed one thing? And it was that painting.
Hmm.
Would that matter? Would that bring his father back? If he did something significant, would that bring his father back? And how more significant could you be than to destroy a god or to bring a god low? And I can't help but think that this version of Luther, everything that he was doing was not because he gave a fuck. It was because he was trying to live up to the shadow that was cast upon him by his father, who clearly rejected him. Um, and
Okay.
and again, that is another powerful motivation that will break a human normally. Just not being able to be good enough ever at anything you do, no matter what you do, you're just not good enough. That can hurt and scar you. Um, I think his whole motivation was to live up to the shadow of his father, and this superhuman alien and this vigilante broken man was a means to an end. He didn't care. He wasn't invested in it. He just knew
Hmm.
that if he could make Superman kneel to him and break him and make him do what he wanted, no matter what it was, it could have been make me taffy,
Yeah.
whatever it was, if
Yeah.
he could make him do it, then he was as powerful as his father, and his father would then respect him, even in his grave. I think that was his motivation.
Mm.
And
I I totally missed that, and you're right. There's several examples of the dialogue explaining it, and it just I know that he was upset at his father, but I didn't put the connection as far as the motivation. Yeah, that actually recontextualizes it. Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
how I saw it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other ways to see it and stuff, but so I appreciated the take of Lex Luthor. I've always liked the comic and animated version of Lex Luthor more, but I don't want to shit on Jesse Eisenberg because he did a great job with the script he was given, and I think he's a good actor. I think he's perfectly reasonable in the role, especially motivations that he was given to portray. I don't think it's fair to compare anyone to Gene fucking Hackman or
Yeah.
or Kevin fucking
He,
Spacey, but
I will say though, they were deep into talks with Bryan Cranston before they decided
oh
to switch.
my gosh.
When I heard, and then they decided they wanted a younger take because they were hoping to have seven, eight, nine movies.
Wow.
and they were trying to do like a Marvel Cinematic Universe where
Right.
they were thinking like 10 years down the road, and Bryan Cranston would have
That
been
would
too
have
old.
been
But
amazing.
I think that was in my head because once I heard that, I kept picturing, God, this would be so much better if it was delivered by Bryan Cranston. So
Everything that man does is great.
right.
Everything he does is great.
So I think that was a mistake.
Oh,
It reminded
wow.
me of like
I
one
didn't
time.
know that.
Yeah, I reminded me once of I heard about Back to the Future was
Right.
started. They started
Eric
to shoot with
Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz. Yeah, like at some point, like I wish Snyder would have said, you know what, Jesse, this is not you, but we're like 3 days into shooting and we're gonna go back to Brian. I just think it would have been so much better. But I do
Oh,
hear your take on
wow.
Heisenberg. Yeah.
Now I can't not think about that.
Oh no, I
That would
ruined
have
it
been
for you.
brilliant. I think he could have brought some real
Right?
gravitas to the role.
Yeah.
Even if, oh my gosh, now I want to see what his take would be just in like a line, like a monologue. Because let's take the Holly Hunter scene of him talking about his dad and the redcoats are coming, but put Bryan Cranston in that role?
Yeah.
Fuck off. Is a no-brainer. Why? Wow, just because of his age, they didn't choose him?
Yeah, because they were thinking like, oh, we're gonna have
Oh,
this universe 10 years from now. But like
oh, that's a
to
loss.
but to me, like Hackman was always older than Superman.
Yeah,
Like and same thing with Kevin Spacey. So I just pictured like an older,
yeah.
version. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow, that would have been different. All right. I would have loved to see that actually. I love that man. I think he's a great actor in everything.
so good. Yeah.
Okay, so Diane Lane is Martha Kent. How can you not love this woman?
Yeah, she did everything she could with. I think my favorite part of her was she had a line that said, "You don't owe them anything."
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes,
I
yes,
was
yes.
like, because like the entire movie, I'm thinking like, God, what a curse it is to be Superman. Like you can't take like I said, you can't take a nap without thinking like you just killed 100 people that you could have saved. So for her to say like, don't think of it that way. Like you don't owe them anything. For your mom, to say that to you, that to me was she's just amazing.
Yeah.
And just when she's being held hostage, like I felt every second of that. She was like, if this was a Marvel movie, she would be making like jokes, like, oh,
Yeah. Oh,
my son's gonna
gross.
be here any minute. You better,
Yeah.
or she would be acting tough. No, she was terrified, as you would be. She's amazing. She's one of
Mm-hmm.
the best parts of this universe.
That I. Oh man, the juxtaposition between Kal El's parents and Clark Kent's parents, and how his father's like, "Don't show your powers because they will, you know, um, you need to be the hero and help them, but you have to do it secretly. Don't let them know who you really are because then it's all over." And his real father, Kal-El, is like, or Jor-El, is like, "No, you're here to guide them and make them a better people. Like you
Yeah,
can help them." So he's just getting impounded by be the thing, like be the man, just do it in secret, but be the man. And then his mom's like, be the hero or don't.
or
Like
don't.
you don't
Yeah,
owe them anything at all. Like you could just be you. And that is like a clarion call for every conversation I ever had with any of my kids whenever they've struggled at all. And I wish my parents would have had the same conversation with me. Just be you because that's good enough. You
yeah,
may not be a Beethoven. You may not be a fucking superstar like Henry Cavill or whatever. You are good enough. You're you. And that's
yeah,
amazing. And we wanted you. And here you are. You're fantastic. Be happy with that because we don't want anything more for you. We want
yeah,
you just to be the best version of you, not the best version of someone else, of you. I think that puts so much. First of all, it drops pressure off of the person that hears it. Like, oh, I don't have to live up to someone else's expectation. I just have to be mine. But it
right.
also lifts them up saying, but I can be a better version of me. Like, I may not be happy with myself and where I am right now, which is why I'm trying to aspire to be someone else or like someone else. But I don't have to do that. I can just lift myself up and be the best version of me. And that's okay. There's
Yeah,
power in that. And for a
absolutely.
kid to hear that and experience that, no matter what age, because I think ultimately when we're talking to our parents, we're always a kid.
Right.
I think that's great. Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. She was brilliant. That line was amazing, and it spoke to the character in the moment, which was so important because that's the turning moment for Clark when he's like, all right, I need to stop worrying about what I'm not fixing and focus on what I am fixing and finding who I am in that experience. And it
Yeah.
makes Superman Superman. Like,
That's why I thought there were parts of this that were really, really good. And I love the storyline of Superman when he saves the girl and he's surrounded by people that have their hands reaching
right.
out to him like he's a deity. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, in this universe, there would be religions. There would be
Mm,
actual religions. I wish they showed that. I think that would be really interesting to see how far that hero worship went, because here is someone tangible that you could physically see doing these superhuman things, literally
yeah,
flying.
little miracles.
Miracles, yes.
Like,
And why wouldn't there be religions and stuff like that? And then the downside of religions, and
yeah.
see that aspect. Like, man, that was really cool. And the scene, which might be one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, where he goes to the court, he answers the Congress's
Mm,
call to answer for what happened in that fight with Zod in the previous movie. And the whole way that went down was just really, really cool. The explosion goes off, and his reaction wasn't "oh no," or he just sighing.
yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
I thought that was such a great choice. I don't know if that was Cavill or the director or both, but what a great choice. And what a chess move by Luther, because he knows everyone's watching this on TV. They're going to see the Capitol building in flames, and he has to come out at some point.
yeah.
So watching him emerge from a burning building where everyone else died, of course he's now the villain in the media's eyes. Like, he could have prevented this. Everyone thinks he could have prevented this.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's a genius move. So there's some really great parts of this. I don't know why I have such mixed feelings.
You're not alone. A lot of people do. Let's talk about the most obvious egregious one.
Okay.
So, if you buy into Batman wanting to kill Superman, if you buy into Superman kowtowing to Lex Luthor and going to kill Superman, or I miss Batman, but at least he's trying to like rationalize with him until he is just like fed up. If you buy into all that, and I think the fight's dope. Like, I
Yes.
love the fight.
Yes.
But the end of the fight, when he's like, Martha, I think that's Henry Cavill's worst acting ever, personally. Um, and then Ben Affleck's like, "Why'd you say that name?
Yeah.
Why did you say that name?" And then Amy Adams just like leaps in. It's his mom, bitch. I was like, really? That's the best solution you could have written? Like that? Really? Like, and I understand they led up to it. They layered it on with a lot of frosting at the beginning and at the middle, and then they finally get to this point, and they're like, they're hammering us with this. Like, this is so important to both of them that the mom or the absence of, that we have to, that's going to be the thing that shakes him loose. And I desperately want to accept it because they've gone through so much. If you watch it again, they went through so much trouble to lay
It's
the groundwork for it.
it's his dad's last words. It's literally his
Yeah.
last words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his dad is the reason why he's doing all of this. Like the death and the fight and the fight before he gets killed, and like it's such an imprint, but I just have such a hard time with accepting that
Oh
that's the
gosh, I
thing.
thought I was gonna have to argue with you for a half hour. Yes, me too. Me too. I think it's the way they went about it. And in my head, I played it out so many different ways that I think could have been better. I just want to get your take on it. I think one of the negatives of the movie is the second half of the movie, probably the second two-thirds. Lois Lane is kind of marginalized.
Yeah.
She's such a great actress and such a great character, but she really doesn't have much to do in the second two-thirds of the movie. Like, basically, she has the spear and she throws it in the water, and then she leaves, and then she comes and gets it back. Like, just not. I think this would have been a glorious time for her to actually defend Superman from Batman, like physically try to fight Batman. And that's the realization that Batman realizing this is a human being who's willing to give up her life to defend Superman. I was
Oh.
like, that could have killed two birds with one stone, because he has to come back from a murderous rage. And I don't think the one word, works as well as her, just in front of him with her, willing to give up her body to defend Superman against him. And then I think the
Wow.
and then I think the Martha thing could have come into play, because then after Batman saves Martha, it would be better if he didn't know her name. And when she says to thank him, thank you, I'm Martha, that would have been the connection that he just saved his mom. In a way, he saved a mom.
Oh.
I think that would have been really cool if that's the realization where because for Superman to say it, Martha, in that moment just didn't feel real. Like, who calls their mom by their first name, especially in your dying words? You know what I mean? Like, it's not Bart Simpson, calling his dad
Nah.
Homer. I don't know anyone else who calls their parent by their first name. Just me
Right,
personally.
right, right.
It just felt awkward. So I think if Lois Lane had been the catalyst of slowing Batman's murderous rage down, and then after he decides to save Martha, then she says, "Thank you so much for saving my life. My name's Martha." Then that would have had such gravitas at the end of the movie, because he realized he actually did it. He saved Martha. I think it could have been a cooler moment,
That's great. Okay,
right?
so I want to come back to that really quick.
Okay.
I want to say that I was thinking, like, how could you have fixed this issue? And if he just said, "My mom, he's going to kill my mom." That's all you need. You don't need the
Yes.
Martha weird obscure connection,
Yes.
because he doesn't know it's Martha, but everyone connects with the idea that he's going to hurt my mom. Everyone gets that connection. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
done. I think that would have been so much, the way you presented it would have been so much better, because if Lois Lane would have come in at that moment and just like pushed or leapt on or leapt in front of Bruce, and Batman is just like, he probably would have like threw her aside for a second, and then she just gets right back up and gets in front of him
Yes.
again,
Yes.
and he's just like, what is, and that breaks him of the frenzy. And
Yes.
then, yeah, I think that would have been brilliant. I think
Right.
that would have been worked so well. Wow. Why aren't you a screenwriter? What do you do for a living? What the hell, man?
I have the most boring job in the world, so I have plenty of time to think of stuff like this.
I think that would have been great. Oh, man. That would have fixed everything. Like, all my gripes about it.
And give Amy Adams something meaningful instead of like
Yeah. Yeah.
retrieving an item like a scuba diver.
And her entire fears earlier in the film about being the victim that Superman has to pull his attention away from everyone else to save, now she's the
Yes.
one stepping in and saving.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It would have been great. Oh,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
Oh, man. I would have loved that. Jeremy Irons as Alfred, I thought nailed it.
I have on one of my notes that I thought he was possibly the best Alfred I've ever seen, and
100%.
I was so enamored with him that I wrote down some of his quotes, because it just every line
Great
of
dialogue.
dialogue was amazing. So he said, "Men fall from the sky,
Yeah.
the gods hurl thunderbolts, innocents die. That's how it starts, sir. The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel."
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's amazing!
Great
And then
line.
he said,
Better delivery.
"Better
his delivery.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I am
his
making
voice.
it worse by speaking it, but
No.
yeah,
It's just, he has that gravel in his voice. And when he
yes.
says it, you're just like, oh, man.
And then I loved where he said, "Old age comes to us all, Master Wayne. Even you've got too old to die young, though not for lack of trying." I was like, I have a few more, but I mean, I think he might
Yeah.
be my favorite part of the movie. Just, I never thought about this, but Batman, he must have some secret contractors for certain things, because he can't do it all just him and Alfred. But Alfred has to do a lot. I mean, even if Batman's working on the Batmobile, if you've ever, I'm sure you're very much more handy than I am. When you're working on something, sometimes you just need someone to hold something to screw it in.
Yeah.
So you figure like Alfred and him have been hand in hand. And so they showed that a lot more in this, where Alfred's the man behind the man in the chair, guiding him and stuff. And I love that dynamic. Not that Morgan Freeman wasn't great, and the guy in the original
Morgan Freeman.
wasn't Morgan Freeman in the Nolan? Who was Alfred in the Nolan?
Was
Uh,
he? Do I not
am I wrong?
remember? I
I
don't
gotta.
remember. Was
Who was
he?
Alfred in the Christopher
I own
Nolan
them.
trilogy?
I need to watch those again. Maybe we should do a Batman version next, because I don't
I'm
remember
down.
that at all. I like literally
Am I
I'm
crazy?
blanking on who was the.
Alfred.
I love Morgan Freeman, but it's more Shawshank than
Oh
anything
yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Damn my chubby fingers. Uh, oh no, Michael Caine. What the hell was I thinking
Yeah.
of?
Yeah. What
Oh
are
my
you thinking
gosh. Jeez.
about?
It's a fever
And
dream.
Dufresne.
Jeez. What?
It was a fever dream.
Oh,
I wouldn't mind him being one.
he was in the Nolan trilogy, right? But he was like helping or
I
something like
don't know.
that. Oh,
I don't
Jesus.
remember, dude. It's been so long since I've seen those three films that I
Let's just
just
edit
don't.
this part out.
Yeah. All right.
But don't use the editor.
Remix.
Don't use the editor from Snyder.
This is gonna be the short that I choose.
No, no.
All right. So Holly Hunter. I'm a little hit and miss on her as an actress, but I think as in this particular case as a senator, I really enjoyed her. She wasn't in a lot, but I enjoyed her in it.
Lucius Fox. He was at least in the Batman movies. I'm not totally crazy.
Right.
Anyway, but yes, I'm sorry. So yes, so I thought she was good. I think it's sad that we needed a senator who typically doesn't have as much power as, say, like the president. But even they realized at this time, like the office of the president had diminished, and continued to diminish for the next 10 years since this movie was released. So I think they had to have someone who had the appearance of being virtuous, so I think it was wise that they went that route. But if you think about it, she has an awful lot of power, to make all these decisions about whether or not he could get the license to retrieve the kryptonite from the ocean and to set up this whole hearing in front of the world. Like it seems for like a senator or a congressman of many,
I mean,
one
they're
of
on
many.
securities committees and like
Yeah,
they do have like significant power and authority, but it's usually amongst a committee, and an individual only has as much power as other people wield to like give them, in the
yeah.
Senate. So I don't know. I mean, for the sake of the film, I appreciate it because I just finished a Ben Franklin autobiography, expanded autobiography, and so I'm a little bit nostalgic about what America is, was, could be, was a promise to be. I like the idea that someone that is an elected representative of a significant portion of Americans has the vision and desire to stand up to big tech,
Yeah,
to a corporation, and say, just because you want it to be done is not good enough. I can see what you're trying to do, and I don't want to burn down this individual simply because he's an alien.
yeah,
And I want to extrapolate this just for a second because there's a lot of fervor in our country right now. The fact that you wanted to come to America does not make you a bad person. Some people are bad, yes, but the fact that you came here does not make you bad. The fact that you came here legally does not make you good. And the fact that you come here illegally does not make you bad. It makes it illegal, but it does not make you bad. And there is a huge difference when immigrants are being painted as murderers and rapists simply because they ran from the tyranny of their own government to come to somewhere that is a global promise of the dream of a better version of a nation. We the promise of America is not that we're better; it's that we strive to be better.
mm,
It's we're not perfect, It's that we strive to be a more perfect union. Not that
Yeah.
we are a perfect union. It's that it's the
The word more.
admittance that
That
we
word
are
more.
not perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to be a more perfect union.
Yeah.
And that's so important because understanding that we're not there, we'll never be there, but we're trying collectively as much as human beings can try. We're
Yeah.
trying to be better. That it would force people to abandon everything to try to be a part of that. And then when they finally fucking get here, they're shunned or they're pushed off or they're demonized. Hurts. As an American who loves the concept of America, hurts me that that's the reaction. This nation didn't exist. We made this shit up. There's no existing stability that had ever fucking. We took this from people, and then we tried to build on top of it, and then we demonized the people we took it from, and now we're demonizing people that did the exact same thing that we did collectively. You know, it's frustrating
Yeah.
and it hurts. Like I
The
think
thing,
we're better than that.
100%. And the thing that bothers me with the anti-immigration mindset that so many people seem to have nowadays is that we're all immigrants.
Yeah.
Unless you're Native American, you are an immigrant. So it reminds me of like you're on a sinking ship and there's a lifeboat and it's pretty full. And you're like, please let me on, please let me on. You beg, you beg, you beg. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll let you on. And the second you get on, you're like, no more, no one else can come
Right.
on. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, a second ago, we just let you on. Why can't we let someone else on? No, 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 no. They're not worthy of being on. Let's just go.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like we're all immigrants. So it bothers me.
Yeah.
But
But that's
yeah,
why I like this senator because she has genuine concerns, as one should, about this alien and where his alliances lie.
yes,
So and it's this reinforced idea. Democracy is talking to each other. It's not demonizing the other political side. It's not shutting them down and not letting them have a conversation. It's bringing it up because what makes this country great is freedom of speech. We don't have to agree with each other on everything, but we can hear each other's perspective. That helps us understand each other, even if you don't agree with them. That's okay. You don't have to. But if you understand them, it informs you more about your fellow fucking citizen. And
yeah,
that will only better your life in the long run in every decision you make. Because self-preservation is understanding what other people are trying to take from you and what you're trying to take from them. And if you can just stop for a second and hear someone else's experience, you're going to learn so much about reality and the world. Because again, I keep going back to my drill sergeant, perception is 9/10 of reality. Other people perceive this thing differently. And we don't have to demonize each other in order to understand or accept. And we certainly don't have to demonize someone else simply because they came from somewhere else, because we all came from somewhere else, for fuck's sake.
yeah,
It's called the New World for a reason. Fuck.
yeah.
Anyway, I
That's
love that character.
yeah, and that scene of her in the courtroom was possibly my favorite. The only thing I really would have loved to have heard what Superman said, because he didn't even get a chance to speak. She was very polite. She thanked him
Right.
for coming. And then the tension was beautifully done by, she looks at the glass
Yeah.
and then the
Grandma's
explosion.
peach tea.
Yeah, that the scene was beautifully shot. My only regret is I was just kind of curious to see what Superman would have said about that incident and just in general, his whole approach to, Congress, to the people of America, and to the world. What I was curious when I was watching it, I was like, I wonder what Adam thinks he would have actually said. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you don't have to say word for word. But what do you think
Yeah.
the tone of his speech would have been?
I have no idea. I'll tell you what I don't want him to do is talk about denuclearization. It's fucking Christopher Reeve Superman. We need to, if men are not willing to do it themselves, I will do it for them. All right.
I didn't make that connection. Yeah, that was yeah.
No, I don't know. I think in the moment, I think he probably would have stammered and struggled for words because he's not an orator. He's a dude. He's just a fucking dude. And he's a fucking dude from another planet who doesn't even understand what he's doing in reality. He's just
Yeah.
trying to do good. That's it. In the way he interprets that. Like, we put, and this is what I love about the mythos of Superman versus this interpretation of Superman is the mythos of Superman is he understands good and evil and he fights for good. This
Mhm.
Superman is, I'm not from here. I don't even know where I'm from. So
Yeah.
my whole conceptualization of good and bad and right and wrong is informed by my surrogate father. And he told me not to be outed. And here I am out amongst you now. Please, I'm trying. That's it. I'm trying. Like, maybe have a little fucking mercy here. Because I'm not killing you. I'm trying to save you. And yes, my antics did murder a lot of people. And that fucking weighs on me, on my soul. That
Yeah.
hurts me. But I'm trying. Yeah, I just feel like that would be the
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Uh,
I think it would have been helpful if he stressed to people that he wasn't a god, he wasn't infallible.
yeah.
I would have loved if he said, "Look, I'm sorry if there's anyone out there that I couldn't save. I am not, a god. I have limitations. I'm just trying to help." I would have loved a conciliatory approach, and I think it would have been. I don't think he would have been like, "Look, you guys."
He'd be like, listen here, humans.
I didn't have to throw him through that third building, but it felt good. I'm glad he didn't. Yeah, I don't think he
You
would have
know,
gone
we've
that.
all been there, right? Am I right? The third building? Yeah, we've been there.
That building needed renovation anyway.
I mean, fuck that guy. But that architect, he deserved that. He built it. I just destroyed it.
But just acknowledging his fallibility, I think would have been a good moment.
Yeah.
But it was beautifully shot. I love that scene.
And I love that he didn't know that there was lead and he was like, I didn't want to look. Like maybe I didn't want to look for the cause because I was so hurt that they would be pointing the finger at me when all I'm trying to do is something to help everyone.
And I'm pretty sure
Oh.
that was just in the ultimate version. I don't think they had that line about the lead
Oh,
in the
really?
theatrical. I looked it up,
It's
and
been
that's
so
what.
long, I don't remember.
Yeah, that was one of the things they said were the differences
That's a
between the
big
two.
difference.
And I was like, God, that's huge. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Our first iteration of Gal Gadot. What'd you think of Wonder Woman in this?
I thought she was great. My issue with and I've said this before about other superhero movies, when it gets to be too much, it just ruins it. I paid my ticket for Batman vs Superman, and her inclusion in this, it just didn't work for me. I just wanted to focus more on the two interacting.
You
I
mean
could have done
the
a
issue with you? I thought she was with you. Didn't work for you?
no, even that didn't make sense because he knew her. He talked to her a bunch of times. He knew that she
Yeah.
wasn't with. I think what happened, I think, with this is that Marvel at this point had been going like gangbusters at this
Yeah.
point with Avengers, and I think they had the idea that we can't be patient and do it the way Marvel did. We have to catch everyone up. So we have to throw Wonder Woman in. We have to show Aquaman. We have to show Flash and Cyborg. And I think the reason that it worked for Marvel until it stopped recently, but I think the reason it was such a global event with the Avengers is that they had a Captain America movie, they had a Thor movie, they had an Iron Man, and then
Yeah.
when they came together, there was resonance. To just kind of like throw everything at once, and then the next movie everyone will care. No, I don't care about Cyborg because those 2 minutes of him wasn't enough for me to care. And same thing with Aquaman at that point, and even the Wonder Woman movie came after.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had the blueprint from Marvel. I know, I guess they didn't want to be copycats, but if it works, it works. Do the separate movies and let it build up into a great event, and it wouldn't have taken away the focus, which I wanted to just be Batman Superman. That's just my take on it.
Yeah.
It was too convoluted.
Yeah. I certainly understand that as like a film goer conceptual focus because we had just lived through the Marvel version. I know the studio was thinking that. At least I assume they were. I don't think. I don't think Snyder was thinking that. I think he was thinking these are American gods. The DC Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman are American mythology gods. Everyone knows them. It doesn't matter what age you are. You know who they are already. You've known their exploits since you were a child watching cartoons or reading comic books or pulp fiction, novels, or watching TV from black and white era. Everyone knows who they are. I grew up watching fucking Wonder Woman on TV, and I just know her, who she is as a character. So they didn't need to lay a groundwork because it exists. I didn't know fuck all about Ant-Man, but I know Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So
Yeah.
I don't think they needed I don't think Zack Snyder thought they required that buildup. He was trying to get to Justice League, and he was trying to get to the trilogy of Justice League films that he wanted to make. And so he started with Man of Steel. That went well for the company. And then when he got greenlit to make Batman v Superman, he was like, I want to do the Superman dies storyline. That was the hottest comic book ever. Full stop, period. Superman dies. It was the
Right.
greatest. They tried to do that with Christopher Reeves, and it was so short, it didn't really work. For him to do it in this, and I still don't think it fully worked. It affected me emotionally, but it didn't work because they had the rising dirt at the end, which ruined the whole fucking thing. But if like he just wanted to tell that story, so he had to get there. So how do I get to Superman is killed by Doomsday? Well, we have to bring in the Justice League because that's the next film. Superman resurrected, Justice League wins, and they battle super galactic beings and stuff. So I have to kill Superman. How do I get there? We're going to start with Batman v Superman, and we're going to spin it off with Lex Luthor and his fucking crazy antics getting a hold of Kryptonian technology. And we've already laid tons of foundational groundwork for Krypton and from Man of Steel, so it's going to just pay through perfectly. And for me as a viewer, I did think it worked really well. I do agree with you that it was a lot, especially in that second act.
Yeah.
We went through the whole Batman v Superman thing, which is the title. And so the subtitle, Dawn of Justice, is the excuse for Wonder Woman to be there. But that's a promise of a build-up for the future. And what's better for Superman? In a film where he's demonized for being flippant and choosing who lives and dies, to at the end decide, I'm gonna die for these people, not because I want to prove a point, not because I want to glorify myself, but because I have to stop this thing. I brought this thing here. In the previous movie, Zod said, if you didn't activate that
The World Engine.
world engine, we would never have known where you were. I brought them here. I destroyed this fucking world, and I have to now save it. And this is the only way to do it. I'm the reason this is going to happen. I'm going to fucking end it at all costs. And I thought that, I don't think cinematically, visually, it was as powerful as it was evocatively, like emotionally.
Mhm.
But when he just like grabbed that thing and just that spear and flew into Doomsday, and Doomsday stabbed him through the heart, and they were just like had that dying moment, I felt that. I was just like, fuck me, I want a Superman in real life. Like,
Yeah.
why can't we have someone like that who is willing to just, and it's, the irony is, I would never do that. I'm not like that. And maybe that's why I love it so much, is because it's so far outside of my life experience. I would never be a Superman. And that's why I love him so much, because he's everything that I'm not and never will be. And there's something aspirational and exciting about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is modern mythos. What Hercules was to the ancient Greeks, like Batman and Superman. It doesn't get any bigger for Americana. Like, I was always a Spider-Man guy, but prior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Batman and Superman, you could look at any polls or any kind of statistics. It was like 1 and 2, and then a distant third would be anyone that Marvel had to throw out there, and probably Wonder Woman might be third.
Yeah.
So it definitely these are powerful myths. It was a great storyline, and yes, I remember actually collecting that comic book series, and I hadn't read comics for years before, but I was interested to know what happened to Superman. it's a great story idea. I just felt like it's just there's too many conflicting story ideas. I felt that needed to breathe more. I would love to have seen that in its own Superman movie, where you have plenty of time after he died to see the repercussions of it. For it to come at the end of the movie, when there were so many other things going on, it just like whiplash. That last third of the movie, Batman versus Superman are fighting, then they're best friends, then they have to rescue Martha, then Lex Luthor has Doomsday, then it looks like he has Darkseid or something else going on. Then Wonder Woman comes, then they fight. It was just too much, and I just felt like it's trampled on such a great story idea that deserved its own full length movie. And then, like you said, and then they ruin it. They won't even suspend disbelief for one movie. Like in Marvel, they had with Thanos kills half of them,
right?
And at least you had to wait a whole year to find out what happened. And I don't know if I told this story before on stream, but I went to a birthday party for my cousin and his 9-year-old, and they watched Infinity War, which was the movie where Thanos kills half the universe at the end.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of 9-year-olds in the movie theater with my own son, and they're all watching Spider-Man disintegrate and Captain America disintegrate, and they're all crying. And that was the birthday party. They all left crying the movie theater. And I was like, that's amazing. But they had to wait. They had to wait a whole year. In this, you have to wait 5 minutes because you see the not only the gravel, but there's the music score is like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Dun dun. And you're like, oh, okay, so he's fine. Yeah. So it took a great storyline and just trampled it. I'm sorry. That's how I feel about that.
No, I respect it.
Yeah,
I respect it. I agree like 95% with your emotional reaction to it, because I felt that too in the theater, in the theatrical cut. When I saw the dirt go, I was like, motherfucker! I was so mad. I was like, let it land. Just let it be pain, because that's going to lead the next movie so much better. But now we know. Of course we know he's coming back. Of course. That's the whole fucking storyline. But let us be in a heartbreak for a little bit, because that's what we want. We want to feel something. And sweet hell, this world sucks enough as it is. You don't have to lead with the fucking next thing yet. Like, let us just feel something. Yeah. I was so upset about that in the theater. However, after having seen both versions of the Justice League, I liked that Superman wasn't in it for so much of the film. And I feel like if you would have cut the end off of Batman v Superman with the dirt and the music, and had the Justice League Snyder cut version preferably, but whatever version you want, and Batman or Superman doesn't come into it for so long, that's a lot. Because then then Batman's just like, I've got to kill this motherfucker. And then he dies and he's like, oh, I fucked up. I fucked up. Yeah. Oh shit, we're fucked. And then in like the darkest moment, they're like, we're fucking dead. Superman flies in and you're just like, yeah! It's so much more powerful. But then the fact that we know it's coming, we saw so many teasers that even Alfred is like, oh, here you are. Like whatever he says. Like we knew he was coming back. It was like, fuck, man. You ruined the surprise, the reveal, which would have been so much. First of all, it was great, but it would have been so much better. Instead of us going, when is he going to come back? It would have been like, is he coming back? Yeah.
100%. Exactly. And by the way, you touched on another point of why this movie gets a lot of criticism, and it's hard, reflecting 8 or 9 years later. Yeah. But the trailers for this were the worst I've ever seen. They gave literally every plot point away. If you watch I think it was the second trailer, which was probably on the Super Bowl and like really broadcast very broadly, it gives away every single plot point aside from Superman's death. It gives everything away. So if you go into the movie, it's almost like a checkbox. Like, oh, okay, that happened, that happened, that happened. So that was another reason why I think people were disappointed with it, is there was no surprise, there was no fun in that way.
Yeah. I hate trailers for that reason. Yeah. It's the worst version of a trailer. A trailer's supposed to be a tease, a titillation, not a fucking story beat. Like, it's not supposed to tell you what's gonna happen. Yeah. All right. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff, like the Warner Brothers wanted Johnny Depp to be Batman. and Josh Hartnett to be Superman, which like what the fuck originally.
That's
They,
almost as bad as Nicolas Cage as Superman.
they were going to originally have the Joker and Riddler in this, but Snyder actually said that it was too much, and so he cut them. Which for Snyder
Surprising.
to do that, you thought it was already stuffed. It could have been a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot to love about this. There's a lot to not love so much about this. I don't, because we've never seen another version of this type of a story at this sort of scale. It's hard to qualify whether it would have been good or not in any other way, or whether it would have worked in any other way. I do think your version of the redemption between Superman and Batman worked a lot better than the film did. I would have liked to see a little bit more. It's rough. It was a 3-hour film in the Ultimate Edition. I still would have liked to see more, and I think that speaks more to how much I loved the DCEU, that I wanted to live there more, and I wanted there to be more development than there actually was, even though there was a ton of hours of development. Speaks to how good it was, that we wanted more out of it, and that we felt like we got gypped because we didn't get more out of it.
Yeah, and I feel like the Snyder movies, the Snyderverse movies, are aging well for me.
Yeah.
Every movie is better than the first time, and I think it's because we've been bombarded by the Marvel version of superhero movies where everyone is jokey.
Yeah.
It's become very comical, and I guess if that's what you like, I mean, it's fun, I guess, at times, and I certainly enjoyed Thor Ragnarok the first time I saw it, but it's not one that I'm going to go watch again because this to me is more gritty, and it made me think about these characters in a different way. And I think Snyder was very successful. I just think this movie suffered from too many good ideas.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, the whole storyline is great. The death of Superman is great. Introducing Wonder Woman is great. Lex Luthor is great. But just everything at once to me was just a little too many cooks ruining the soup. That's not the saying.
Yeah, close
something
enough.
About the soup.
Close enough. Soup and nuts? I don't know. You put your nuts in soup? I do. Yeah, and that's totally fair, and I totally get it. I still, again, like you had mentioned, reflecting back on the Snyder films more fondly as time passes. I love this when it came out, and I like it more and more because it's more adult. To your point, it's not as jokey and stuff, which I like laughing, and I like jokes and stuff, but I also like gritty, like philosophical, like storytelling. And the more I look at this story arc, and we'll have the final one next, I think the DCEU with Superman did something that had never been done before. Not in comics, not in TV, not in film, and will never be done again. And maybe that's a good thing, because it presented a Superman that was equivalent to the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, which was gritty and as real as you can get for a superhero like that, who was coming into his own and learning what it means to be a superhero and to be a hero of a species that he's not of. And I really liked that. And I liked the complexity of it. And I liked how much it made me think about my own life and my own life experience. And I like how it made me cry in every film, and for different reasons, in different moments. And yeah, I'm a puss, but still, it fucking affected me in every single film. And I watch films all the time, and not all of them affect me. And so I have to grab on really tightly to the ones that do, because there's something in them that resonates and speaks to me that is powerful. And I dig it, man. I really dig it. And this is one that I thought could have been better. I don't know how particularly it could have been better, but I still enjoyed it. So
yeah, I feel like the Marvel movies may have done better in the box office, but I don't think we could have been having these deep conversations about any of the Marvel movies.
There's no way.
Right?
No way. This film did almost $1 billion in the box office.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
Fuck.
That's true.
It did so well. It didn't do like Endgame well, but it
Right.
did really, really good. And
Yeah.
and I don't understand the 29% Rotten Tomatoes score for this, because it has failings, but not 29% bad. That's
Yeah.
that's like almost vindictively bad.
Yeah. I fought with myself, you know, the entire movie like 11, 12 times. I'm really enjoying this. No, I don't like that. I'm really
Yeah,
It was like
yeah.
a crazy person. I was Harvey Dent.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I got to say, I really enjoy doing these reviews with you. Thank you so much for joining me in this one.
Thank you, pal. I'm really looking forward to the Justice League. There's a
Yeah.
lot of good
We're
stuff
going
in
to do the 4+ hour version of it. So tuck in, people.
there. That's right.
I love that edition, though it's a chore, but I do enjoy it a lot. All right,
Yeah.
so and that's gonna be the final one that we do until the new Superman film comes out. So fingers crossed, the new one's good. I have my fears, I really do, but I'm going into it hoping. I want it to be good. So I hope it's not a Star Wars sequel trilogy. I want it to be good, and I keep going back, going, "Am I missing something? Why isn't this good?"
I feel like we've set the stage between Superman 4 and Man of Steel. It's got to be somewhere in between. It can't
It's
be an
true.
outlier. So
That's true. The worst of the worst and the best. Yeah. All right. Well, for those of you watching this, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know. Are we waxing way too intellectual about this comic book film? I dig it if we are. I understand. But let us know in the comments below. How did you feel about the theatrical version? And if you saw the Ultimate Edition, did it change how you felt about the film? Or are you just like turned off by the entire DCEU? I'm curious. Let us know in the comments below. As always, remember the evil spelled backwards is live. So get out there and be evil.
well, maybe don't attempt to murder humanity's salvation and then be best friends with it a minute later, evil. But you know, maybe like stealing cookies or stealing clothing from a line, something like that. Evil, a little evil is always good.